banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the capital region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now. Happy to be joined now by trainer Ken McPeak, a Swiss skydiver and the Beholder, making her 4-year-old seasonal debut out at Santa Anita on Saturday. A couple other interesting horses maybe to talk about a little bit later on. But first, let's get into some Swiss skydiver. Ken, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we talk specifically Saturday afternoon, first, congratulations. Season highlighted by Swiss skydiver winning the 3-year-old filly Eclipse last year. And just as we get into general conversation about last year, I'm going to pull up the stretch run to the Preakness. We're going to watch a ding-dong battle between Swiss Skydiver and Authentic, where she winds up besting the eventual Horse of the Year, Authentic. This was an incredible performance back in October of last year. Just take a moment, Ken, to reflect a little bit. Got some comments from you outside the winner's circle after the Alabama in Saratoga, which was a spectacular performance. You said then maybe she would face the boys, and she did here in the Preakness. In a 10-race schedule last year, she raced at 9 different tracks. Just reflect back on the 2020 season from Swiss Skydiver.
Well, I don't make them like this anymore, I don't guess. It was a lot of timing and things coming together. And, she's obviously a very good horse, and she took us a lot of places that when you started thinking about where we're going to go next, and she kept touting me to, hey, I can handle about anything. And like I said, they just don't make them like that too often. And I think the fact that the COVID protocols and how the racing changed locations, it changed the schedule, and it's very adaptable to all that. And it really made my job a lot easier than you can imagine. She's so special to be around.
Yeah, you look at that record, and as I say, we got to see her up at Saratoga. I was fortunate enough to be on track during the season. That Alabama was one of the performances of the 2020 meet. But again, we watched that Preakness stretch run, ding-dong battle, and now it had to be special at the time, but now you reflect back, and she beats the eventual Horse of the Year. How special was that race? And that played into the 2020 schedule, the Preakness in October.
Well, it was awesome. You knew she had a chance when they straightened up, and it was a matter of whether she could fight him off or not. And hell, in hindsight, I wished I'd run her in the Classic because I think she likes that distance better. But pull off a victory like that's obviously special, and she's taken to some awesome places. For people that want to see a little bit more of her, I posted a bunch of videos on my Twitter feed this morning when she's going to the track and galloping this morning. I don't know if people out there do much of that, but
I think we've
got a Twitter feed at Kenny McPeak.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we have your Twitter handle up, and in fact, we pulled a video of her out galloping this morning. We're showing it now. Highs of the game and the lows of the game, the win in the Preakness, and then the stumbling start in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. So that had to be a huge disappointment. But fill us in on what it's been like since the Breeders' Cup. Did she get a little time off, and then when did she go back into training and whatnot?
Yeah, she got a couple of months off and was able to get a little rest, and then we were able to ease her back into things here this winter. And, the lows are part of it, it's a game of, kind of a Ferris wheel. Sometimes you're on the top and sometimes you're on the bottom, but you really aren't allowed to complain or even, well, Pat Day told me years ago, don't get too high on yourself and don't get too low. It's a humbling business, and you've got to, unfortunately, handle some average horses that go with some very good ones, and it's something you get used to some extent, but at the same time, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, no, it's competition, like all sports, and anybody who's played sports know you have to have the mentality to live with, but you don't like the losses, and it's that disappointing Breeders' Cup distaff certainly. But then she winds up with the Eclipse Award at the end of the year, and you had the nice Alabama, the nice Preakness, and the other nice wins last year. So again, congratulations on the great 2020 season. But now let's get into Saturday afternoon. We just saw her out on the racetrack at Santa Anita. So how has she made the transition? How's she feeling the track? But more importantly, I want to go back to last week, the 58 workout at Gulfstream Park. That had Twitter blowing up. I know Mike Welch down there gave a rave to that workout. Give us your thoughts on the workout last Saturday down at Gulfstream in prep for the Beholder.
Well, good horses work on a different set of numbers than average ones, and she just does that kind of stuff easy. And, I'm thrilled with the 58. A horse in the middle of the turn hooked up with her by accident, and she just went into fight mode. And Robbie was sitting still on her, but she wanted to go. She wanted to go with that other horse, and you get a champion sitting there. It's hard to keep her from doing what she wants to do. But it wasn't scheduled. My directions was to go, but she came out of it good and seemed to be jumped right in the feed tub that morning and that afternoon. So we went ahead with our plans.
Very good. And when did she get out to Southern California? Again, we just watched that video of her galloping on the track. When did she get out there, and how's she taking to the Santa Anita surface?
She got out here Tuesday night, and they've had storms here, so the racetrack was closed Wednesday and Thursday, and then today it's finally open. So she missed a couple of days training, but so did everybody else. So we got her good gallop in her today. She was happy to be able to go out and stretch her legs, and she's ready to go.
What was your thought process in selecting the Beholder and shipping out to Southern California?
Well, the other very good filly on pointed towards the Azeri at Oaklawn, and her talent levels up there too. Her race in the Fall City was pretty amazing last fall, and she's not top level by any means. She keeps she kept with Swiss Skydiver on a regular basis. She's certainly not the marquee name that Swiss Skydiver becomes. She's a very good filly, and I see her have a fantastic year in her own right.
Yeah, I'm going to hit on her in just a second, but before we do that, let's just Swiss Skydiver and your thoughts for this afternoon in the Beholder.
Tricky. I mean, the one post is a little tricky out here, but she did win from that when she ran here prior. And this race breaks really close to the first turn, so you've got to get away clean. But we'll leave that up to Robbie, and let's see how the race unfolds. It's not an easy race, and it's really she's not beating older horses, so she's got something to prove, and hopefully the race unfolds for her. But like I said, there's no givens, and it is the first race of the season. Last year, her first race of the season, she was fifth, and then she went from there. So it'll be interesting. Our expectations are, she'll run well, and hopefully she wins.
Looking forward to it. Again, the 4-year-old debut of Swiss Skydiver in the Beholder, and hopefully we'll see her up at Saratoga. I'm whispering a little bit. See her up at Saratoga later this year. But let's go over to the Azeri and Envoûtante, as you mentioned, because I did pull up a replay of that Fall City. Pretty much on the front end there, the fractions were very reasonable here. The race just before the Remington Park Oaks, she kind of stalked a little bit and then pounced late. So 2 for 2 in the last 2 starts, but hasn't been seen since this win in the Fall City. This race on Saturday, the Azeri, with only 5 horses, kind of interesting. It looks like some early speed. The pace scenario looks like it's going to be very intriguing to see how it plays out into the first turn in the backstretch. What are your thoughts for Envoûtante Saturday afternoon in the Azeri?
Well, best races come underneath Brian Hernandez, and Brian rides a lot for me as well. And we'll leave that up to Brian. He's been real successful on her, and he'll have to. He'll do that. But she's a really good filly. I mean, no knock against her whatsoever. And of them this weekend.
And she also been working forward to her 4-year-old debut. So you had a couple of good 3-year-old fillies. Now the calendar turned, they're 4-year-olds. But you also, before I let you go, had a very good 2-year-old filly last year. I'm about Simply Ravishing, what the plans are for her. While we talk, again, I'm a homer. I like to pull up the Saratoga races. So I pulled up the P.G. Johnson from September 3rd. Simply Ravishing is going to be the number 7 horse here in the off-the-turf P.G. Johnson. Give us, I see that Simply Ravishing's back on the work tab. Give us your thoughts on what she has in store for her in the 3-year-old season.
You know, this is a very, very, very talented filly. We're right now pointing her towards the Gulfstream Park Oaks. And there's a chance we skip it and go to the Ashland, but right now we're planning on the Oaks. And she's worked the bullet last week, too, going a half. And she's a filly that sky's the limit on. You know, by Low Bank, the young stallion by Uncle Mo. But this filly, maybe we could check that Kentucky Oaks box. I've been third in the Kentucky Oaks 3 times. I'm sorry, second 3 times. And she's hopefully a filly that can get that done. She's got that kind of talent.
Yeah, she certainly flashed that in the 2-year-old season, so looking forward to her return, too. Ken, appreciate the conversation. You're taking the time. You know, it's a big weekend coming up with horses like Swiss Skydiver and En Vuitton, so we appreciate the time. We wish you a lot of good luck, and we'll talk again down the road.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Ken McPeak, Swiss Skydiver in the Beholder, En Vuitton in the Azeri, coming up on Saturday afternoon.
Horses racing, people betting. It's been going on since before the Roman Empire. And the fastest horse is still the one that wins. Where there's gambling, that hasn't changed either. What has changed are the tools used to combat doping and cheaters. Today, professional horse racing operates under an aggressive anti-doping program. Testing labs on par with the Olympics, tougher than human sport. For 85 years, the Association of Racing Commissioners International has fought for safe horses and sport. RCI standards form the basis for the rules of racing. Today, they call for a new expanded program to protect all horses, young and old. To join with them or learn more, visit arci.com.
Welcome to Albany County, an incredible nation to live, work, and play. Easy connect dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement. From world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to relaxed at the New York State Museum. From outdoor to nightlife, Albany County has something for everyone. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As promised at the top of the show, we are joined now by his work in the Bloodhorse, America's Best Racing, and beyond. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to talk a little 3-year-old action. I know over the past few weeks at both the Bloodhorse and ABR, you've been hitting on some of these Derby preps, so I thought we'd get some preview and review. And you had a nice article kind of going over the Rebel field this afternoon at Oaklawn, so I thought we'd start there. And I pulled up a replay of the Smarty Jones. We're going to watch Caddo River, the number 7 horse here, just dominate. But I said, I had Rick Hammerle on earlier, and I said, you know what? I'm tilting towards Concert Tour Saturday afternoon because I did a stat forecast we have. I tossed out a trivia question, and I asked, of the last 12 Rebels, how many has Bob Baffert won? He's won 7 of the last 12. So I just couldn't get past Baffert. I use Baffert over Caddo River. I think Keep Me in Mind is interesting for Robertina Diodoro. But what are your thoughts on this afternoon's Rebel down at Oaklawn?
Well, I'm going to agree with you with Baffert. This is Baffert's race, but I'm kind of leaning towards his other horse, Hoser.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of think Hozier. I'm not sure of the right pronunciation. Anyway, I think that horse could be the one to watch because I get a feeling, looking at the speed that Concert Tour has, I think he and Cotto River have to go at it early, and I think that's going to set it up for somebody. And certainly, now the morning line is 12-1 on Hozier. I'm not sure if you're going to get that big of a price because it's Bob Baffert, but I think he has kind of a tractable style where we could sit a little bit off the pace and make a good run. As I say, Caddo River, that was a huge race in the Smarty Jones. It's over the track. But, I've never got the feeling from Brad Cox that, this horse is in the same caliber as Mandaloon and Essential Quality. So I'm thinking that we might get a good speed duel between Caddo River and Concert Tour. You could set it up for a horse like Hozier. Also, I'm looking at the long shots because, keep me in mind, there's certainly a horse that should benefit from a fast pace, but, he's had some training setbacks, trying to get ready for these races. I could see him making a nice run for second or third. I'm not sure if I want him to win at a price. I'm looking at another long shot in the race, Big Lake. Steve Rasmussen's horse, who's won his last 2 starts at the fairgrounds. Times are pretty good. He's got a style that he should benefit from a quick pace. And Ricardo Santana, Asmussen's go-to rider, has taken Big Lake over Super Stock, who's a little bit lower in the odds at 6-1. Big Lake is 12-1. Santana's on the longer shot, and Super Stock I think is a good consistent horse, but he's going to be fresh. He hasn't run since October 25th. He's got the outside post. He has some speed, so I think too he's going to be up there pressing that pretty quick pace.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm looking and kind of laughing and thinking, you know what? I'm going to have to box up the 2 and the 3 in the exacta because we'll all kick ourselves after the race if there's a Baffert Asmussen exacta that pays like $150. But they have the other 2 horses in the race that are the shorter price that'll take the action. Big Lake and Hozier, I think, will get off at prices. And as I say, I'm going to back myself up a little bit with those 2.
Yeah, and when you look at this race, you kind of wonder, okay, are they maybe bringing in rabbits to run with Caddo River? But I'm not sure. It doesn't look like those 2 have the profile of being the rabbit. And certainly, I would think Hozier. I don't know for a rabbit. I mean, those guys. Those are the connections from Authentic that are buying $20 million worth of yearlings for Bob Baffert every year. I don't know if they're going to say, "All right, use our horse as a rabbit." So I kind of get the feel. I think, as I say, those 2 horses could be interesting in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race. Those 2 do add a little bit of as well. All right, let's go back. Because again, you had a nice recap of the Gotham and Bloodhorse, and you're based in New York for the New York action as well. I'd love to get your opinions on Wayburn. We're going to watch the stretch run here. I did not use Wayburn. I was not alone there, 46-1, but it's easy to root for Jimmy Jerkins. And this was a gutsy performance because he gets passed by the Chad Horse Crowded Trade, and then Wayburn comes back and gets the victory. Highly motivated. The shorter price of the Chad horses gets up to run 3rd in here. But this was a nice performance from Wayburn. And more importantly, or more interestingly to make the story, I guess both of the top 2 finishers were scheduled to go in an allowance race on the day that didn't go. So they wound up going in the Gotham.
Yeah, and I think that's very revealing. Now, again, when you got to keep in mind the connections. Like after the race with Wayburn, there really wasn't a sense that, well, we've got a Derby horse, we've got Derby fever, we're going. I mean, remember, you got to look at the bloodlines of Jim Miller, Alan Jerkins, the Giant Killer. So 46-1 fit there for Jimmy, but Alan Jerkins has never one to really have class. He was more about time and having a good horse with a long. I think the Gotham it's just a strange fit into the series because you went the 1 1/8 and you go a mile. Now they're going to go the 1 1/8 in the wood on April 3rd. I thought it was a very good performance. I think those horses have some future. I'm just not sure of the Kentucky Derby with those horses. The final, they need almost 26 to come home. So I'm not. I think there's going to be very good horses. Maybe there'll be a Preakness horse coming out of that field, but I'm not sure about the. I'm not sure about the Derby. Highly motivated, the favorite did have some problems at the start. There was a little bump toward the where the gap ends with him, but Javier, after the race, Javier Castellano said no, that didn't bother the horse. So again, he looked okay. Again, not great. Nobody in that race, I thought, screamed out that, yes, I want to go 2 turns. I want to go the 1.25 miles. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what they do decide to Chiefs Wood, because it wouldn't surprise me. We're paying Belmont Stakes, maybe stick home. I'm hoping. I played all others in the Derby future pool last week, which would get me a little Wayburn and a little Helium, but I'm a little dicey on both of those. So it won't surprise me if, as you say, they pick another option for Wayburn. Let's go over, though, of the 3 preps last weekend, the one to me that was the most impressive, and you had a little preview of it on the America's Best Racing website, the San Felipe, and I thought Life is Good was just phenomenal. Tosses a triple-digit buyer and wins pretty easily there. What were your thoughts on Life is Good last week?
I think that was a very impressive performance. I mean, there was a bit of the drifting, but, look, Bob Baffert will correct problems like I didn't get the idea that was because the horse is going to have some distance limitations. Remember, people were saying the same thing about Authentic after the Haskell. Oh, he can't win the Derby. He can't go that far. I saw a Ragozin number in the 4s, which is really impressive. Well above where everybody else is sitting. Right now, he definitely is the horse. I think the connections, given what he's got. Again, he's a speed horse, but lately, ever since they kind of got rid of those sprinters because of the point system and such in the Derby, he's been doing very well in the Kentucky Derby. So, certainly, that was certainly the most impressive performance. Yeah, you read some trouble into it if you want. I'm going to have faith that Baffert will have that horse ready for a big effort on the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, you make a great point about the point system. For folks who are new to the game, they may not remember, but before we had the system that kind of has weeded out the more sprint-oriented horses. But there used to be, every year you'd wind up with 1 or 2 horses who may go out there at crazy pace, and that horses that were legitimate in kind of quality speed. The cheap speed would go out and burn them out. But now with the point system, it's a little bit different. And so folks who are maybe new to the game, that's worth kind of plugging into your equation as you look back historically at how speed horses have done in the Derby.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. It kind of falls into the into that category of, people think it's about a quarter. You can't get the distance. You can't be on the lead. Yes, if you get the right pace, and sometimes you get out front, you get yourself out of trouble in a race like the Kentucky Derby.
We were talking before we went on the air about Tampa Derby as well, and I think we were both of the opinion. I liked Helium last week. I had him underneath in my mix, but I was doing the afternoon handicapping show and looked up at the board and saw, 15, 16 to 1. And I said to folks, play around with this horse a little bit. And so Hidden Stash had every reason to go by. Helium wouldn't let him go by. It was an interesting scenario with Mark Casse. The 2 starts up at Woodbine on the synthetic, had been off since the Woodbine meet. Brisnet PPs went back a little further PPs as far as workouts, and there was a bullet work on the dirt for this one at Fairgrounds at the end of last year before Helium transferred over to Cassie's Ocala Training Center. So I found that a little bit interesting as far as the surface switch. So again, I liked Helium a little bit, but as I say, you and I were kind of in agreement. Mark Casse has hinted he may come out of this race and go straight to the Derby. I don't know, 3 starts and a Tampa Derby to Kentucky Derby move kind of puts him on the outside looking in for me.
Yeah, I'm a little confused with that. I mean, because I think there was a problem with races like the Tampa Bay Derby in the past where they had been in a different spot, kind of in land. Now you're kind of in, you can prep 4 to 5 weeks before. Like, if he wants, he can go to the Florida Derby and get 5 weeks to the Derby. I'm not sure. The time wasn't really all that good. It was the kind of race that horses are getting like in their penultimate prep for the Derby. You know, he still has to come forward a bit. Is he going to come forward through training? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. There was a horse on the undercard, Untreated, a horse that debuted for Pletcher and Team Valor. His time was, I think rated nearly as good. So that was a maiden. Now, he did win the maiden race by almost 9 lengths, but still, I'm not sure about that. I'll probably let that one beat me.
Yeah, as I say, I bought an all others ticket in Future Pool, and he would be in there. But on the scenario, I don't have much confidence. Bob, again, you based down in New York and cover New York racing a lot, and so I thought I'd tap into your thoughts as well and see if you've had your ear to the ground, as it were, and any news coming up as far as NYRA and plans for summertime, spring, summer, Belmont, or summertime at Saratoga. I get my jab a little bit later this afternoon, so I am kind of thinking, as the news has progressed over the past month or so as far as vaccines, I'm now feeling kind of optimistic about the summertime. But this is a very fluid situation, certainly. But what do you hear at this point?
Well, I think the key thing to keep in mind is it's not really NYRA's decision. It's going to be mandated by the state as to what they're going to allow them to have. Right now, they are allowing them to bring people in, to bring owners in, licensed owners and such. You do look at, they are letting people into other venues, and I think as the summer goes, especially the fact that you have the Yankees and Mets, if these numbers really dramatically start to drop, I think they're going to make it a lot more open for the sporting events, especially in an open-air venue. I think NYRA's probably hope for somewhere maybe 8,000 to 12,000 people at Saratoga if we get the state. And I think the key part there will be, again, what the state is allowing. I know this is what NYRA is focusing on. There's definitely not going to be any fans at Aqueduct during this meet. They had talked about Belmont, but I think they're realizing the effort you have to put in to get fans at Belmont Park, with the cleaning, with everything set up, with the workers and everything. For the small amount of fans they get other than Belmont Stakes Day, probably not really worth the big push. They might bring in a number of fans if they could get approval. But the big thing right now is I think they're pushing